time for me to turn over to our guest speaker. I'll give you, I know his bio is in the program, and there's a lot of impressive things in his bio when you read through it. What I'll tell you about what I know about Captain Schultz, I'm not sure when I first met him, but I think in the proverbial NSW encyclopedia, next to the word teammate, is a picture of Captain Schultz. See, the first few times he interacted with me, it was a phone call saying, "Hey Jay, if you got some time, I'd like to grab a couple burritos and stop by your office and run a couple things by you." He's had a 30-year career, several years as professor, leadership on the outside, and he's calling me, the commander, want to run a few things by me. So all in one little phone call, I'm hearing humility and I'm hearing just outright awe. Now, as we talk through our conversation, all of our conversations were extremely thought-provoking. I think he's forgotten more about leadership than I've learned. And still, he comes back to talk about what the community is doing, his care for the community. Now, it's partially because he also has a son in naval special warfare, back to that whole gene pool thing. But when I look through his career, I see diversity, I see leadership, and I see a career that most of us in uniform would aspire to have. He mentioned to me, one of his proudest things is he's actually president of the fraternity, Old Frogs and Seals. I'm pausing for dramatic effect. The single most important thing he told me today was that he gave up his golf game to be here. So I'm envisioning right now, there's a couple foursomes who are regular Friday golf players who are about 45 minutes ahead of schedule, wondering, what's going on? Why are we playing so fast today? Without further ado, I give you someone I consider a good friend, teammate, Captain Bob Schultz.
Thank you. That introduction reminds me of a great line from the movie Crazy Heart, in which Jeff Bridges, as an old, washed-up country western singer, says, "I used to be somebody, but now I'm somebody else." It's an honor for me to be here to speak to a group of young men who are about to be somebody. Because Class 297, 38 years ago, I sat where you are in a much smaller ceremony as a 23-year-old ensign, not quite sure what I'd gotten myself into. And for you parents and family members out here, 9 years ago, my wife Marianne, who's with me here today, we also sat where you are as our son graduated with Class 249. And he's still in the teams, and he's serving right now out in Africa. And for the rest of you, friends and mentors of Class 297, I've been where you are as well, because I've come to a lot of these graduation ceremonies to congratulate young men who I've known and mentored. And I was thinking about, what am I going to say here today? And I was looking back and I realized I don't remember anything that any of the speakers said in any of those many ceremonies I went to. So I don't have any really inflated sense of the importance of my remarks here today, but I'm glad to be here, and I'm going to have a good time here for the next 15 minutes or so. I'm going to dispense with protocol, and I'm recognizing all the retired and active flag officers and commanders and master chiefs here. Most of us worked together over the years. We know each other pretty well. With the exception of Dick Lyon and Langdon Smith, who did their time in the team before my time. Now, Dick was one of the original Scouts and Raiders. Was the War of 1812? And Langdon was one of the Scout Swords for the Union Navy in the Civil War. We're all members of Old Frogs and Seals and old friends, and when we get together, the operative word is old. When I went through training, all the instructors had recently come back from fighting in Vietnam, many from multiple tours. And they all had lots of stories to tell, and we listened, all ears, listened to every detail. By the time I finished BUDS, I felt like I had fought in the Vietnam War. I had heard so much about it, and I also heard that some of these stories were even true. And I suspect that 297 feels kind of the same way about Iraq and Afghanistan. Your instructors have been doing their job, passing on their experience and wisdom to you, so that when it's your turn, and when you get called upon to fight, and I suspect that when that happens, some of these instructors who you've been with for the last year will be by your side. They want to make sure that when you all are in war together, that they can count on you and you can count on them. But you've already got some good stories. It's part of what BUDS is about, I think. And I got to read some of your personal stories, and I want to share with the rest of the audience a couple of nuggets that I pulled out. Reading some of these stories, though, Jay, Basic Training Command may want to upgun their spelling curriculum. I read that SO3 Bender and SO3 Abby spent years as lifeguards, one on Venice Beach and one in Florida, leaving one young man's dream behind to follow another, from lifeguard to Navy SEAL. Good job, guys. That's great, huh? SO3 Gargan was a struggling musician before he came into the Navy. My other son is a struggling musician, and parents, I worry more about my son who's a struggling musician than I do about the one who's a Navy SEAL. SO3 Aquino joined the Navy after being bored running his own restaurant, which apparently was pretty successful because he said he served a number of celebrity athletes like Phil Mickelson, Jason Williams, Phil Rivers and their families, along with, in his words, many mafiosos and corrupt politicians. Now, I'm glad he didn't name names. In these personal stories, they also add some of their fondest memories from BUDS. They add them because Jay tells them to. And I enjoy reading, I'll share a couple of those with you. Watching the sun come up on Friday morning of Hell Week, which for, what is it, class 302 now? Just finished? Hell Week? 303? They got to do that this morning. Spending Thanksgiving Day on San Clemente Island. Sledding off the cliffs in Alaska after the instructors left. Yeah, when the cats were away. My first free fall jump. My first night jump. That night Dreger dive without wetsuit in December. One of the guys mentioned a dance party in the weapons cleaning room at San Clemente Island. No girls. Knowing that the instructors were lost during the long patrol in that whiteout in Alaska. Boy, ain't it great watching the instructors screw up? It doesn't get any better than that, does it? And how smelly our camp was on Survivor Island in Alaska after Bender and Jenkins ate the seaweed against our recommendation. I don't know what that's about, but I think my favorite was being allowed to soil myself during Hell Week, and it was socially acceptable. Finally, it's socially acceptable. I would like to tell you some of my BUDS stories, but I also know nobody cares. Ask any frogmen. The only BUDS stories they care about are from their class, and especially the ones with them in it. So I will spare you that. Now, when I signed up for the SEALs, hardly anybody knew what a SEAL was or what BUDS was. I remember when I was in training, I was trying to impress some young lady into thinking I was somebody, particularly somebody she might be interested in. And I was telling her I was going to be a frogman and go work with the SEALs. And she said, "Ooh, you're going to go work with the frogs and the seals? Are you working at SeaWorld? How cool." You guys don't have that problem. Your capabilities are well known and well respected around the world, and expectations are high. And that is part of why it is a particularly exciting time to be coming into the SEAL community. But let us be wary. There's an old saying that goes back to the ancient Greeks. Those whom the gods wish to destroy, first they make them famous. Say it again. Those whom the gods wish to destroy, first they make them famous. The adulation of the public have a narcotic effect and can distract you from the virtues that got you here, and can distract us and the teams from the virtues that got the teams to where they are today. Now the old pros know this, but some of the young guys don't. I wrote an essay which appeared a couple of years ago in Naval Special Warfare magazine, Ethos. I titled it, SEAL Ethos or SEAL Mythos. In it, I suggested that all this publicity has become a siren song that has seduced some of our SEALs into believing our own mythology, believing some of the overinflated hype that we read in the press and we hear on television. Stuff like the toughest men alive, super commandos, experts in demolition and hand-to-hand combat, experts in field craft and tradecraft, faster than a speeding bullet, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. Yeah, SEALs, they swim 10 miles every morning before work. Every SEAL can bench press 500 pounds. And our skills in hand-to-hand combat make Chuck Norris quiver in his knee. I've heard all this stuff, and you probably heard it too. Remember that stuff in SEAL Ethos about common men with uncommon desire to succeed, forged by adversity? Well, this SEAL mythos is created by people who want to be somebody. People who want to believe in Superman or Santa Claus. And the SEALs who perpetuate it are pretending to be somebody. And this mythology may impress some of the girls that you meet. And it may get you free drinks at the bar. And some of your buddies back on the street may want to believe all that BS. But guys, let's make sure we don't start drinking our own bathwater or Kool-Aid. Let's not lose our focus or our situational awareness. So I challenge you, Class 297, to keep this SEAL mythos at arm's length. Keep the SEAL mythos at arm's length and subscribe rather to the much more mature demands of the SEAL ethos with which you're quite familiar. You read it yesterday in my sermon. The SEAL ethos is about truly being somebody and not about pretending to be some mythological hero. I learned a Latin phrase just earlier this week, which I think is appropriate here. Esse quam videri. It means to be rather than to seem to be. Esse quam videri. Now your missions, the missions that your teammates are getting, that my son is getting, and that you will be getting, require years of hard work and discipline. And these are not missions for some Rambo or some rogue warrior who might seek to embellish the SEAL mythos for his own benefit. These missions demand focus, teamwork, and discipline, discipline, discipline. The missions that have recently been in the press, that have won the SEALs some well-deserved recognition and appreciation from our nation, are the result of years, decades of hard work and discipline. At the risk of contradicting what some of your instructors or some of your friends in the teams may have told you, if you've heard how boring life in the teams is going to be as the wars wind down, that there's going to be a mass exodus from the teams when there are no more combat deployments on the immediate horizon, let me give you a little different perspective. When I hear that, I shake my head and say, BS and QW. Quit whining. Those who are in the teams just for the feel-good of shooting bad guys in the face, maybe it's okay if they get out. But let me assure you, there will be plenty of challenging and interesting and important work to do for your nation, for which no one is better trained than U.S. Navy SEALs. I came into the teams right after the Vietnam War. And Then, like now, our country was sick and tired of war. But I was never bored. I had a career that my friends who were in the teams who got out, and when we got together about a decade later and compared notes, they made more money than I did, certainly. But when we compared what we'd been doing over the previous 10 or 12 years, they drooled over what I'd been doing. I wasn't at all envious of what they've been doing or their money. Now, my son who's with the teams, he's in Africa now, and he tells me that in his work, his morning staff meetings are really interesting. He says, you compared it to that bar scene in Star Wars. You remember it? The civilians from non-government organizations and private volunteer organizations, representatives from other militaries, people from the interagency. And he and his guys are the testosterone at the table. They mostly sit and listen. But when they speak, it's like that old E.F. Hutton commercial that your parents will remember that you might not know. When the SEALs speak, everybody shuts up and listens. Now, he called me from Africa last week, and we chatted about friends and family. And he said life was busy and interesting, but he couldn't tell me anymore. We were on an open line. I don't think he was doing any classic SEAL operating. Less than 12 hours after we spoke on the phone, we all read or heard the news on television about that terrible terrorist attack in Nairobi. I haven't heard from him since. I don't expect to hear from him soon. But he was exactly where a SEAL wants and needs to be. Deployed, doing what his nation asked him to do. Wasn't necessarily exciting, but it was interesting. And available and nearby when bad stuff happened, in case our country needs our skills. As a SEAL, you want action? Deploy. Do well whatever you were asked to do to win yourself credibility. And you are there when bad stuff happens and our nation needs us. Now, you've all probably heard the expression, possession is 9/10 of the law. In our line of work, proximity is 9/10 of getting in the game. So while I was talking to my son, I said, hey, I've got to give this speech here. Any advice that should I give to the new class? He said, Dad, these guys got all the advice. They don't need any more advice. He said, yeah, but I got to give the speech, Brad. They expect me to give them some advice. So help me out here. They don't want to hear something from an old gunner. He said, okay, I'll give you 2 points. He thought about it for a minute. The first one fairly simple. As a new SEAL, your first priority is to establish a reputation. And your reputation begins with doing 3 things well. Show up on time with the right gear and in the right uniform, meaning professional appearance. Now, that's not going to make you an all-star. But you screw one of those up, and you start drawing a lot of negative attention, and your reputation starts going the other way. The second point was a little more complicated. I think he got this after being the flag lieutenant to General Scotty Miller, who was in charge of all special operations forces in Afghanistan. He traveled around all over Afghanistan with him, visiting. Now, he wasn't fighting, he was going with the general, carrying his bags, sitting in on the meetings, visiting his forces. And he got the soft, big picture. He said, hey, Dad, share with them that I've learned that our ability to shoot people in the face is not what makes us special. There are a lot of other military units that do that pretty well. It's our flexibility, our adaptability, our capability to do the most difficult missions and frequently on short notice. He said, often the most difficult and important missions have a pretty low level of instant gratification. I'll say it again. Often the most difficult and important missions have a pretty low level of instant gratification. We are soft because we are trusted to do those difficult missions frequently on short notice. Now something for you parents, because I'm one of you. I know some of you are concerned about sending your son into harm's way, possibly to war. But let me assure you, these are the people If your son chooses to be a warrior, and your sons have chosen to be warriors, these are the people you want them to go to war with. The teams actually do risk management better than almost anybody. And they have a risk management philosophy that's built on 3 strong pillars. Train hard, train hard, train hard. That's what we do. That's how we mitigate risk. We train really hard. And your sons will be going forward into harm's way very well trained. And probably as, or perhaps more important, they will be going with other people that are very well trained. And our leadership is better than ever. Wives, girlfriends, moms, sisters, sending your young man off to war can be hard. I know that. And being a woman in the life of a SEAL is not a picnic. But it can be exciting. Kind of like a parachute malfunction is exciting. You too, ladies, are in for Mr. Toad's wild ride. There will be a lot of fun, and there will be drama. And Mary Ann and I can share lots of stories about the fun and drama of being together in the teams. And all of us guys need the support from our women for us to serve our nation living out our boyhood dreams as Navy SEALs. Now, Class 297, I'm afraid that a few of you guys are going to have to learn the hard way that the support that you need from the women in your life is not an entitlement that comes with your trident. I'll say it again. The support that you will need from the women in your life is not an entitlement that comes with your trident. Just like your trident, it's something you will have to earn every day, and it won't always be easy. And so, speaking of strong women who SEALs depend on, I'd like to recognize my wife, Mary Ann. She begged me not to ask for applause, so I didn't ask for it. I teamed up with her for 2 years into my 30-year career in the teams, and she made 12 moves, lived overseas 4 times. She raised 3 kids. She's been the girlfriend of the Navy SEAL, she's been the wife of the Navy SEAL, and now she's the mom of the Navy SEAL, and I think she's in the role that she likes best now. She's the wife of the next Navy SEAL. And when things in our family have malfunctioned, she's been our reserve parachute. So ladies, if you have any questions about being the woman in the life of the Navy SEAL in any of those capacities, she's here willing to share her perspectives. She's a wise woman. I'm just a wise guy. Mary Ann, would you stand up here so people know where you are? So, let me conclude. Last piece of advice. I know you guys are sick of getting advice from old guys, but I got the podium. In your personal statements, several of you mentioned how Instructor Pitaluga told you that there's a lot more to being a good team guy than just being a good operator. And he stressed the importance of personal accountability in the rest of your life. And you heard about that yesterday from Master Chief Heinen and a little bit from myself. I wrote an essay that will actually be appearing next week in the Naval Special Warfare Ethos magazine. The title is On Becoming a Good SEAL. And in it, I write that over the long run, there is indeed more to being a good SEAL than being a good operator and a good teammate. But that's a really good place to start. Being a good operator and a good teammate. But for now, let's keep it simple. Show up on time with the right gear and the right uniform. And when you get to the teams, what you learned here still counts. Embrace the suck. QW. It pays to be a winner, and the only easy day was yesterday. Good luck, 297.